Thank you, everyone, for joining us
Okay.
this afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Cassie. I'm the Marketing and Communications Manager here at Peter. And as always, I'm just really happy to be spending the next 45 minutes with all of you. Before I do anything else, I want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I live and work. That's the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. And I want to pay my respects to elders past and present. I also just want to acknowledge what a privilege it is to talk about stories the way that we do on these webinars on the lands of the oldest living culture on Earth, and a culture with such a rich history of storytelling. And I just want to note, of course, that it always was and always will be Aboriginal land. A few quick housekeeping things. This webinar, as always, is being recorded. So we just ask that you keep your microphones on mute so that we can hear everything that our amazing guest is going to say, but that doesn't mean that we don't want to hear from you. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate. Just drop them into the Zoom chat box and we'll make sure that you are heard. Now, let me introduce our guest, Boori Monty Pryor. He is a legendary storyteller who in 2012 was selected to be Australia's first children's laureate along with Alison Lester. Boori has worked in education, film, television, music, sport. He played in 2 World Masters games in basketball, winning a silver medal for Australia in 1994. I also saw modelling on that list when I was looking up a bio today, which is fascinating. He has written and co-written many books, and his latest, Story Doctors, a copy I have right here, is a moving book for children that acknowledges our true history and embraces inclusivity. During his career, it was said in a bio I read today that you have worked with over 1 million children, which is astounding. Welcome, Boori. Tell me about Story Doctors and how it came about.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I can only see one face there. Hello. Oh, no, she's gone. Sorry about that. Let me see. It's in the it's in the foreword on how I got to write the book, and maybe I didn't bring my book in with me, so I'll have to flash off screen and read it to you, the foreword, because that'll explain to you how I got to write Story Doctors, and I think that it really opens up the fact of, I suppose, what it takes to, to write this. So a few years ago, I'd had this premonition, whatever you want to call it, is that one day Australia was going to get really sick and we're going to need medicine. And not your typical medicine chemist, but I suppose it is the same. Chemist, doctor, prescriptions. And then we had COVID hit us last year and still hanging around with us, of course. And then, so I started writing, and then this is a good time to write this. So I had no idea how I was going to write it. Like, as usual, just a blank piece of paper or blank screen. And I didn't know it was going to be verse. So I had to deal with lots within myself to be able to create something that everybody, as many people as possible, I suppose, would have access to it. And what words are like is that if you say them and spray them and do all that stuff, and no one wants to know. So it's basically, and it's not about sucking up to anyone either, or giving them what they want, I suppose, not to not deal with it, kind of thing. Action reaction. So I made up 2 entities, which one was called echoes and the other one is called written words. So I suppose you got black fellas and white fellas. And these 2 entities I wanted to write with them. And they said, no, to write with us, you're going to have to go in that dark room there and sort things out because you're angry. So I went into the room and all the stuff from the past was there, and screaming and yelling at me, don't be nice to them, don't, swear at them, do all this and say this, say that, and dealing with the newer stuff, which was, last year our Prime Minister saying, or I don't know if it was this year or last year, saying there was no slavery in Australia, blowing up sacred sites, all of the things that add to that thing that happens when you avoid something. So I wrote this as a foreword to explain. So to answer your question, here it is. Eco Echoes, Words of Medicine. Somewhere in the midst of 2018, I had this feeling that one day, very soon, our country, Australia, was going to get very sick. We as a nation have been unwell for a very long time now, and I myself was sick of being sick and felt that what we all needed was a different kind of medicine, the kind that should have been taken well before those annoying symptoms raised their ugly heads. And the medicine I'm talking about is a very special kind of medicine, and it can only be found in one place. It's right there in those eco echoes, the ones that have travelled through the voices from the oldest continuous living culture in the world. Australia is made up of 30% desert and is the driest continent in the world. First Nations people were shaped from and by the earth. We know each other very well, so much so that we define longevity and defy logic. So this got me thinking, could there be any way possible to take these eco echoes and shape their wise voices into written words of medicine? Fear, anger, self-loathing, loss of worth and guilt punctured my heart again. I cried, I sobbed, I yelled, I screamed. I was in so much pain that I felt I couldn't stop the bleeding, because I knew that if I had any chance at all to have these written words listen to those eco echoes, I'd have to wrestle with these monsters once again. As I began to write there in my small room in Carlton, Melbourne, these monsters surrounded me, looking for a fight. I wrestled and fought to pick my words carefully, denying them any chance to poison my thoughts. Then, 2 lines in 1 month, my heart stopped bleeding. 5 lines in 2 months, band-aids appeared. 10 lines in 3 months, the pain still lingered. Then 6 lines in 1 month. I was breathing with no pain in my heart. My heart was happy because these eco echoes and those written words have finally met, and they like each other. So now they have gotten together and shaped these wise voices into written words of medicine. Hopefully, when you read these words unknowingly, you will taste that medicine. I fought so very hard to find a way to heal. I really gave it my best shot. I hope you find yourself alive and well within the covers of this book. So there, does that explain it maybe?
I think it does, and it's such a beautifully written foreword. So I'm really, really appreciative that you read it out for us as well. So thank you. It was lovely to hear it from you. I'd like to hear if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about the story in the book and the way that you've sort of structured the storytelling within it, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, the first 2 lines, I suppose, from whence we came, the sum of some, observe the tracks from where we come. Heel and toe tread heat and snow impressions left behind, of footprints so maligned. Standing tall, right on the wall, with spit and oak charcoal too. All this written just for you. From foot through hand, a nurtured land speaks through charcoal beings. What lies within can now begin. Across cathedral walls, this stony face, a storied place where animals animate and beings gravitate to do a dance entwined in charcoal, so refined. Spit and ogre. They talk too. That's nothing new. There's law and order. It's life recorder. So I suppose in those verses up to that point, after it's life recorder, we have 2 blank pages. Not blank, but it's got artwork there, but no words. So I suppose that the verse that I just read sets you up, I suppose, hopefully, because when the editors, Elise and Davina and Rita, the illustrator, had this great idea to just leave them blank so that they could tell the story just by looking at it, to say, look, this is what happens when you don't look after a place. So you got one vibrant, remember we're a desert, so vibrant and happy and like, you know, within the circle of life in the nature of this land. And then what happens when you dam rivers, I suppose, to grow cotton. And I think, you know, and the rest of the verse is relevant to, you know, the rest of the story too, I suppose, is that how Rita got to do the artwork. A very clever and amazing person, Rita. And we blanked the screen, and I would verse the verse, and I read it in different breathing spots and rhythms and different things like that, just to punctuate different parts of the verse. And then meanwhile the screen was blank, and then for like an hour, or half an hour or whatever, we got to talking again, and she was drawing. I mean, she was sketching, and that's how I suppose she works, and the artwork came out from that. So in a sense, that's how the artwork got done. But again, you'll have to speak to Rita about that. So and then when we work together, we kind of like, we know each other because we're working on another book for about 8 years, and this one came up and I got her to do it, and the publishers and everybody agreed, and they made the right choice. So so there you go, that's the start.
I thought I might, because I have the book here. I'm just going to turn my little camera on, and I'll just bring my video up just to show people, if I can, with the glare, just a little bit of the illustration while we're talking about the book.
And if you look at that, that's Rita decided to make a string person, a DNA person. So all the squiggly lines is the DNA from the past. And each page you turn is a little string that goes to the next page. In other words, her idea was unraveling the past.
It's really beautiful, and you can see some of the strings too on the next page as well.
Yeah, and then what happens there, if you look at that, that looks like a face looking back at the past, but also a thumbprint, but opening up the DNA, and you know, like it's like when you get a piece of string and you open it up and the fibers are in there. That's what the idea that she had for that. And she's also got feathers and leaves that the kids can count. Also, there's a hidden gecko in every page that the kids can look for. And so she left it open for the kids, you know, to be involved as well. So this book is going to be studied from 4 or 5-year-olds right up to university.
I would love to hear you talk about, because you were telling me when we caught up a few weeks ago about your experience with this book and with the ideas in this book with really young kids in schools across early learning centres across Australia, and having really, I guess, profound experiences, like talking about this book with those children. I'd love to hear you talk about that a little bit with our members, if you would.
Well, just the the way Reitz has organised it and did it, it really made it accessible for everyone, you know, and there's no traditional artwork in there. And because I was going to ask my cousins, the Kukuyalanji, to put the Quincan paintings on that big page where all the handprints are, but we decided that we'd just do it like that, you know, like Rita did, and it was like great. So that just leaves it open to interpretation, in a sense of teachers at the preschools knowing the words, what they mean, and the kids loving the journey through the string person, but also the kids want to know about the string and what's in it, and then it's like, where does it come from, you know, and the animals, and also this distraction of looking for the leaves and finding the gecko. And I love the way they think, the little ones, because my little fella came up. He said, "So, Boori, if I was to grab the end of this string person and hold it tight and run real fast, would it all spin out and would he disappear?" And I said, "Well, probably." So I never thought of that. So their interpretation is pretty amazing, and they love the animals and they love the artwork. And then they can talk about what happens if you don't, you know, feed your plants and look after your plants and your trees. They die. So it's like, that's the part they really like as well, because that's what they do at the Prees. Is, you know, they have worm farms, they sell worm wee, and they're very dedicated to, because they're probably close to the ground as well, but just what we miss as adults is what I like, and so they're welcome into the book as well.
How was the reaction to the book different? You were just telling me just before we jumped into the webinar that you were talking about the book with older students, so high school students. Just was yesterday, was it? I'm wondering.
Year sevens, 300 year sevens, not all at once, 3 shows. And it was quite riveting, because one of the teachers couldn't speak about it. She was so emotional, because we read through it and I went through and explained on how the book came about, and we did all that, and then and I think why the reaction was so like that, it was because they all felt like they were included. There wasn't this, okay, I'm the storyteller, I am the poet, or whatever you want to call it. I have, you know, Indigenous background, I have this and I have that. But I've workshopped it in prisons. This is without detention centres. This is even before I had the book, because I only had it on screen. And in the detention centre, I kind of read it out, and I said, tell me what's not in there. And then I read it out again, and they said, there's no anger. They said there's no close the gap, Black Lives Matter. There's no blaming. There's no pointing the finger. There's no. And I said, okay, I'll read it again. So I read it again. I said, now tell me what's in there. And this was in the prison, we had a minute's silence. Someone said, us. And I worked at the Flexi Centre, which is homeless kids. They basically said the same. So I suppose all that work in that dark room has helped me make this like this, and also teaming up with Rita and Davina and Elise as our editors. We have a great team. So it's a team effort, and that's what we have to do to heal our country. It's a team effort, and those are the things that I'm trying to elaborate in 300 and something words, and to, you know, and a lot of the teachers yesterday and the kids picked up that the breathing was great in it, and the rhythm was caught your breath, and they really liked it. So I think my first attempt to actually, with the book, to workshop it with that many kids just in one day was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a massive amount of people to share a message with, and sometimes reading a book feels so personal. I think it's something that people often do by themselves and kind of go on a journey with on their own. And this one, the way that you've been able to bring it to people as a collective experience, which I guess is when you talk about it being a team effort to write as well, is really reflected in the words. Do you find when you're talking about the book with students that you have any difficulty having them speak up about how they're feeling about the book? That
Well, one of the boys said yesterday, he said it made me it changed how I think about the world. That's what this Year 7 boy said. And I'm just got an email just before, and the teacher sending me all what the kids liked about it and thought about it. And this is Year 7 and younger, I suppose, and even older. Just in that point, we need them to know about their country and love their country. Because I was at Burwood Secondary. I've been working there for 20-something years. About 300 or 400 kids, and most times I'm there. And I said, everybody say this. I said, this is my country. And I got them to say it till they all screamed out, and everything went quiet. But then I said, yeah, but do you feel like you belong? So I think that's the problem. And I think there's no terra nullius in there, the British word, terra nullius. So, but it is definingly in the message of, we've got to deal with it because we're hurting our children. We're passing on the non-action, the whatever you want to call it, and that's what we've been doing, and we've got to stop that. Yeah, so the reaction's been great.
Have you had, I imagine you've had a lot of conversations with teachers in the process of taking this book around and working with students and sharing the story with them. When you've been talking to teachers about the book and about bringing it into the classroom, is there any particular advice that you've been offering for teaching it, for sharing the story, for approaching the book with students that we could maybe share with the teachers who are with us today?
No, I think, each of you teachers out there, I can't see your faces, but each of you teachers out there, you have your own gift. Everyone has a gift. You guys, you men and women out there have a gift, and don't be afraid to use it. Sometimes you don't know you've got it, and sometimes even when you're using it, you don't know you're using your gift. So this was presented and written in such a way that it was like it was made for each one of you to take and use the way you want it to, that suits you. So I think that's the answer. There's no prescription. There's no kind of, like, I suppose, direction. It's more so, we've done the work. Now let this work help you with things that you mightn't have wanted to do or think about. And and there's lots of different, the teacher's notes are great for everyone to look at and use. And I think this is a pretty complete kind of, there's no, as the people said, there's no anger, there's no thing, and there's no, so it's void of all of that. So then you can just get on with understanding the pace of the verse, I suppose, and the words, because it sums up 80,000 years, 370 something words, I think. So I think that is more to the point. It's like, it's beautiful. Well, we think it's beautiful. And the string person is kind of really unique. And it comes from somewhere that's really different. And it's a good place, and it is going to a good place. So
it really is beautiful. I really enjoy what you said a bit earlier about the rhythm and the breadth of the words, and about the poetry of it, because it is poetry. And we at the moment have been talking a little bit about poetry on webinars, and I was wondering what your thoughts were on, sometimes we know that students can find poetry a little bit off-putting, or be a little bit afraid of it, perhaps. And do you have any thoughts on how perhaps we can talk about verse and poetry in ways that make it feel a little less intimidating?
well, I think sometimes kids really suck, because you know why? Because I ask them, I say, put your hand up if you love poetry, and some of them put their hand up. And I say, put your hand up if you love music. And they all put their hand up. I said, well, you guys sucked in, because music is poetry. So all the words you're singing is verse, basically. They go, what? And if you unpack a song, there's breath in there, there's rhythm, so it's like, it's not so much, I suppose, being afraid of it. I think basically I think they're afraid to write it or be part of that. And that's what I talk about with being afraid of something. Am I allowed to disrupt everyone with a dad joke?
Please do.
Okay. When I was going to high school, I had a beautiful maths teacher, and her name was Miss Green. She always used to have long dresses, and she was always very polite, and she'd always do verse in the morning, and she'd say, you know, hello everyone, may your feet walk upon the earth and feel. And she was beautiful. She was we just loved her, and it was like. And I didn't like maths. I'd rather go punch up crocodiles worse than that, go to the dentist and go to maths class. But I had this. She really got me to come in and not be afraid of it. And I tell the kids this story. I say, she got me to love maths, and me and maths, we fell in love. And one day, me and maths got engaged to get married, but we didn't get married. You know why?
Why?
Because the numbers didn't add up.
Oh, no.
And she had too many problems anyway. So I tell the kids that, and of course they go, that sucks. And I bet you they go away and use that. So then I define it a little bit more. I say, look, if maths is over there, and I'm saying, maths, you ugly, who's the ugly one? They go, maths. I go, no, maths is always beautiful. The further away I get from maths, the more uglier I become. The closer I get to maths, the more beautiful I am. So think about that in life. The more you call things names, you know, the more you do that, the uglier you get. The more you try to understand it, the more beautiful you're going to be. So it's up to you. What are you going to be? Pretty or ugly, or just pretty ugly? And they really take that away. So it's like anything, and that's what I'm kind of saying in the verse as well. When I hold the two hands are out, and they're going, and I'm kind of like going, leaving it up to the person. I'm not saying you must do this. You know, the hands they're going, and I'm saying, so this new way of learning from Aboriginal people, all right, the land, the earth, things around it. So this new way of learning, is it really so concerning? Well, if you try, you will spy. The reason, there's no treason, which means you're not giving up on yourself, all right? If you're going to listen and sit down and learn, you're not giving up what you got. So this new way of learning, is it really so concerning? And so if you spy, You will, if you try, you will spy the reason there's no trees, and it belies your size. Just drink the stories through your eyes. So basically, that's all I'm saying is just take a look at it. So there.
That is such a lovely approach to learning, to speak about things positively and then hope that you will feel positively about them. I love that. I'm just going to make a quick call out to our lovely participants. If any of you do have a question or a comment, please do feel free to drop it into the chat. We have a few more minutes left. But because we do, I am definitely going to ask another question because I get to. I would love to hear you talk about other stories that you would like to see being told for children that you think also belong in the classroom.
Well, I think personal stories are pretty cool. Like I think sometimes, about kids, are so cool. They'll see the principal in the supermarket, and she go, "Mom, there's Miss. What's she doing in the supermarket?" Like they're not a being. They're a teacher. They're a principal. So it's really, and I think all kids have that of teachers. They're teachers. So I think personal stories, and then kids love me telling me that I nearly get eaten by a crocodile. That actually did happen. Nearly just missed my leg, and I really ramped the story up, and I scare them with it. They all like to be scared as well, and I said, "It bit my leg, almost took my leg off." And you know what? Where that crocodile snapped at my leg got so frightened that the hair doesn't grow on my leg where the crocodile really bit it off. They go, "What?" So I pull up my pants, my shorts, and I go, "Here, look, there." And what I do is I set it up before I go, and I get the shaver out and I shave, so there's a bare patch there. And they go, "There, the hair's not growing there anymore because the crocodile scared the hair." And there's silence. So I think that they love stories about you, and their attitude for the just about, and I told that story to the prees one time, and they all went, "Oh," and there was like this preschool, and they were like, "Oh, wow." And then I told a few more stories, and then came back, and this little girl put her hand up. She said, "Boori, can you tell that story again?" I said, "Sure, which one?" She said, "The one about the crocodile." I said, "Sure, I can tell that one again." She said, "But this time, can you die?" And I said, "What?" I said, "That means I wouldn't be here." She goes, "That's okay." She just wanted a better ending. She didn't want to see me dead. She just wanted a better ending. So I think that's probably one point is just to be throw story in about yourself, about holidays, stories. Kids love holiday stories, and then that gets the ball rolling for them to tell their stories.
That was actually going to be my next question, which is when you are encouraging other kids to try writing, not necessarily poetry, but just any kind of storytelling. What kind of advice would you give to a student who has a writing assignment?
Okay, so we've got high school teachers and primary.
We've got mostly primary, but we could go anywhere.
All right. Well, I'll just give you this little piece that will actually you'll really understand then, because when I'm working, my philosophy has always been, if you listen to the children, they will teach you how to teach them. It's not about you. And I suppose it's not about them really too. It's about us and how we work together. So if you allow them their space, then they will allow you your space. So you don't have to buddy up with them and be mates. It's just, that, they know that you're the teacher, and you know that they're the students. So I'll tell you two stories. I was at a preschool out of Blackrock in Melbourne, and I said, okay, everybody give your teachers away. About 15 preschoolers, 4 or 5 year olds. And they waved at their teachers. I said, no, everybody say, hello, teachers. They go, hello, teachers. No, teachers, give your children a wave. And they give them, I said, say, hello, teachers. And they said, hello, teachers. And the little ones went, what? Hold on a second. And I said, teachers, do they teach you things? And the teacher said, every day. And the kids went, whoa. And then I said to the kids, I said, and you give me Band-Aids. They go, Band-Aids? A little girl in front looked up. She said, are you hurt? I said, no, sometimes people get hurt and you can't see them, you can't see. So whenever I come in, you always give me Band-Aids. And I said to the teachers, do they give you Band-Aids? And the teacher said, every day. So I think for that aspect is really nice. If you imagine that the verse just by itself, there's Band-Aids covering them, in a sense, invisible Band-Aids. And then I was at Ingham High, which is Rita's school. She's a teacher librarian there, and I had 3 days there, and I had 2 days in Ingham, 2 days of primary school, and then I had like three shows, and then in the afternoon we had masterclass. Any of the kids could come. So I had a year 7 on the Tuesday, and I had the whole year of year 7, and in the afternoon they all came in to the library. Brought their, the bean bags there and the water bottles, and they all came in. And this one young girl was walking around, and I said, "You okay?" She said, "Well, I don't know if I'm supposed to be here." "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, I'm not a very good writer." I said, "Well, neither am I. I'm okay, but I've just done 7 books now. Come in, sit down." So she came and sat down, and we had this great time. We tell stories, and because we're in Ingham, I was telling them some really scary stories from when I used to cut sugarcane there, and snakes and ghosts, but also just writing stories and about metaphors, but also about being your own self. I want to hear about you. I don't want you to write things that you think you want me to hear. I want to hear your voice. So it was more about just making sure that, learn from other things around you, but don't so much steal the ideas, but also, we want you, we want you. I want to know about you and the way you think. So at the end, she hung around. She said, "Look, if I write something, would you read it tomorrow?" And I said, "Sure." So you imagine the year 7, and I'm going, "Yeah, right. You're not going to have time to write tonight." So I'll go off screen again because I'll read it to you. Because Sienna was her name. She comes into the library the next day, and of course, she comes into the library next day, and where is it? And we'll find it here. And she says, "I've written, the story." So she comes in. We're in the staff room, so I wrote it on my phone. So I'm reading it sitting down next to Rita, and I'm tearing up a bit. So Rita's watching me read it, and then she writes this piece. Rita's sitting next to me, and she goes, "Unassuming. Sienna is the young girl's name. Sienna attended the workshop, not sure about it, didn't think she was any good at writing. She responded really well when asked questions about what she thought of the stories Boori shared, was able to share her thoughts next day, came and found Boori to share what she wrote at home after the session. She wrote it on her phone. She said, listening to Boori, she didn't know she was allowed to write like that. Listening to him helped her find her voice. In the past, teachers told her to choose either a poem or a story, not to mix them. Boori was brought to tears, reading her work, and marveled at the similarities in her style to his, conversational, using metaphors and imagery and the delicate dance of words played together, magical. So this is the piece that she wrote when she went home on her phone. A poetic recipe, Sienna Kratz, Year 7. Writing is just like baking a cake. Baking a cake full of words, words with emotions like horror, love, and sadness. These words bond together to make sentences. These sentences bond to make a wonderful delicacy of flowing lines for inquisitive readers. And just like any cake, writing needs a recipe that includes grammar, punctuation, and spelling, a recipe that involves imagination and self-writing style. Some love to leave small drops of sarcasm. Experienced ones know how to make you guess an ending until the book corrects you right at the end. Comedians love to tickle people with the humor in their story, whereas others love to leave sugary surprises through the cake for you to find and read to where the clue to where the next one is. They love to have exquisite plots that twist and twirl the reader's minds as they slowly chew through the cake piece by piece. Some love to touch the reader's heart as it opens to the author's writing, sad, angry, and happy. So many flavors, sour, salty, and sweet. Which flavor is your style? Because only you can write the sentences that make your writing style yours, and nobody else can write your sentences. And after all that, the cake is baked and iced, then ready to taste. That's pretty cool.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that with us. That's so really moving. I am a little bit lost for words. Wow, what a beautiful experience to have had.
So all I did was to allow her just through, and this is the way I approach it, right? Is when I write, I do. See, I didn't know I was going to write story doctors. I had no idea that it was going to be verse, but it's verse and it works. And Sienna's the same. And if you kind of like listen to the words in that, she's got everything we talked about. Because I said, who's ever gone fishing and started catching lots of fish, and a dude or a dudette sees you catching all the fish and comes up and throws their line in there to catch your fish? Don't be that person. You know, use your own bait, use your own, but everyone's got the line, everyone's got the bait, but it's how you fish that catches the fish. So it's the same as writing and storytelling. And then I wrote another piece I wrote that I was sarcastic in, so she got that in there. And the reason that she wrote that is because the thing that she loves the most is baking cakes with her mum. So she used real life experiences and wrote that overnight.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Thank you for sharing everything with us. We are right on our 4:15 time to wrap up. So thank you again for your time. Thank you for this book. It's a beautiful book.
Thank you.
Will send a link to the book and some more information about it to everyone who is on the webinar today and who has registered. Thank you all for your time this afternoon. We will let you know about our upcoming webinars in our email to you as well. Take care, be safe, especially if you are in a tricky area at the moment. And thank you again, Boori, for your time. We so appreciate it.
Thank you, teachers. We need you. We love you. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.